does it any better than we do. It's your night, your fight, so get it right, baby.
There it is. What's up, Mr. Matthews?
Not much, man. Not much. Feels like forever, huh?
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since we've been on the air, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we had we had a lot go on, man. We were in Vegas, Anderson's fight, and there was just a whole lot of stuff going on the last couple weeks.
Yeah, there was. There was. What did you think about Vegas? That whole experience, pretty hot, huh?
Yeah, that was. I mean, besides the weather, which is always ridiculous. It was actually way more ridiculous than even normal out there. What was it like? What was it like that first night when we were out? I mean, it was like 1:15 or something like that. We didn't even want to leave.
Yeah, like the hotels. Yeah, like not we didn't even go outside. Didn't hit the
Nope.
pools, nothing.
The pool was like, I mean, you really had to be like a soldier to want to go out there and deal with that kind of heat. But it was a good experience, though. We ran around the expo a little bit. We had, we just we had to do our thing for, we had to do our normal rounds. So, but it's a good experience, and it looked like a lot of the fans are having fun as usual. So, yeah, all in all, that was good. And then, of course, Anderson's fight was crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts. New middleweight champion Anderson Silva got dethroned.
Yeah. So, how many times have you watched the actual knockout? Now, I've seen it probably at least 100 times. So,
I've seen it a couple times. Yeah, it was different angles and whatnot. It's pretty crazy.
What'd you think?
I think Anderson cost himself that fight with his antics. It looked like he could. I mean, not like that he could have, but he could have had. I mean, yeah, he could have had his way with Chris Weidman on the feet for sure, in my opinion, had he not been goofing off so much and doing what he does.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I thought it was like one of the interesting things about all that was like, well, I actually haven't heard so much message board chatter since BJ fought GSP. This is like the type of fight this was, that it caused so much emotion on both sides, like for like the people who were supporting Wyman and the Anderson supporters, that you still see the arguments, like they're still on the message boards. People are still going crazy over it, and that's partly due to the fact that, I guess, because they signed the rematch for later this year. But it's just crazy, the commotion it caused. And one of the things I thought about and one of the points that was brought up was that between the first and the second round, what Ray Longo said to Chris Weidman was, he said, punch a hole in his chest. And it was a weird comment. Nobody really understood it, but it was because, he was saying to hit him in the chest to bring his head forward. And I thought that was just like a genius tactic. It's just something that you don't hear a lot. It's something that it immediately made me think of, like, high level grappling and things like that. How you get somebody to do one thing so you can get him to do another. It made me understand how high level of a thinker Ray Longo is when it comes to striking.
Yeah, but here's one thing, and something that camp is familiar with is Weidman set up to be now the next Matt Serra? And what I mean by that is he one and done with the belt? They're gonna, Anderson Silva gets the immediate rematch, just like Matt Serra did against GSP, and we know what happened in the Matt Serra GSP rematch. You think that's the same thing's gonna happen to Weidman, or you think he's gonna be able to repeat history and beat Silva again?
I think that the dynamic is completely different in the sense that when Matt Serra fought GSP, Matt Serra was the veteran fighting the younger fighter that had gotten previously knocked off. Like, GSP's loss seems to be chalked up to inexperience and things like that, and a lot of different other factors that just don't have anything to do with him being a inferior mixed martial artist. Like, Weidman is going to be the younger fighter by a pretty heavy margin, and the difference that again, it's even in a rematch, it's hard to pick against Anderson. But I'll tell you this: that Weidman is not going to, he's going to have felt Anderson's presence in that cage, and he's going to be a little bit more used to it this time around. And part of Anderson's uh, opponents, they have a problem just with his aura when they get into the cage, and that could be an issue if Weidman becomes very confident.
True, true. Anderson did open up as the betting favorite in the odds, so at least the odds makers are still behind Silva, thinking that he'll probably be the likely victor.
Yeah, I think that most are chalking it up to exactly what you said, like clowning around, and I don't think that that's unfair to say. I just think that I just think that the argument is pretty good on the other side when they say, well, he dodged two punches, but he didn't dodge the third. So maybe they just figured out if we throw enough of these when we're coming forward, he can matrix. The one thing about Anderson is that when you watch him do that move a lot, most of the time he does it and he dodges a 1-2, and he didn't look like he was really set to move for the hook, you know, and that's why I think he got clipped. Now they could adjust that, and Anderson, he's so experienced and he's so good that I expect him to adjust all these things. I expect him to come out fighting like he fought Rich Franklin the second time. I mean, that's that's kind of what I expect. But again, it's too early to tell. It's going to be a huge fight, though.
Huge fight. Let me ask you this: while we're waiting for Cesar Gracie to get him on the line, we have a couple minutes before we get him on the show. What did you think about? First of all, our boy T.J. Grant got knocked out of the title shot with Benson Henderson, right? And in his place comes Anthony Pettis. But what I was kind of surprised about is today, and mind you, it's a very small fraction, but Anthony Pettis came out as the favorite over the champion Benson Henderson in this fight. What did you think? What do you think about that?
I was surprised about that, but I guess they're just simply basing it on the first fight. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. They're basing it on that, and um, I think that it's not going to be an easy fight for him. It's not going to be an easier fight. Ben has now fought really tough guys. He's fought better guys than a better competition than Anthony's fought. I mean, that's just fact. Anthony hasn't fought a lot in the last couple of years. He's been injured, and there's spent a lot of time between fights and things like that. But when he has fought, he's looked good. I guess you can scratch the Clay Guida performance, but other than that, I mean, he's looked completely awesome. But the difference is, I think, is that Ben has been more active, and he's also not tried to push himself down to 145 and then come back to 155 and then have surgery on his knee. And like Anthony Pettis' game is kind of reliant on movement and speed and having that kind of athleticism. And we don't know what his knee is going to be like. And it's just a lot of unanswered questions. And it may mean nothing, but you have to at least weigh that into consideration. And that's why I'm not sure that in my head why I would give him or put him as the favorite. But I guess I understand why Vegas puts the odds in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a real fraction of a difference. Like they're basically even, but they do give this very, very slight edge to Anthony Pettis. I thought that, Mr. Henderson has done enough in his UFC career to prove that he is the legitimate champ, and I mean, he's beat everybody they put in front of him. Mind you, he doesn't really have a high finishing rate, but he's doing his thing. So, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean that is the other side of the coin. Ben has had very, very close fights. It's not like he's blown anybody out of the water. In fact, many of those fights. Well, okay. Well, I'll give you Nate Diaz, but he didn't finish Nate either, and we know that that's not impossible now because Josh Thompson went out and did it. And he arguably lost the fights with Edgar. It's just tough to say. It's like. You can make arguments for either side, but I think I give the benefit of the doubt to Ben, based on being consistent. I see him out there trying to improve and get better. He fights really, really tough guys. I mean, you got to look at the Nate Diaz fight. Everybody knows how tough Nate Diaz is. Nate Diaz is, we're talking about a guy that is world class on the ground for mixed martial arts. I mean, he submits good guys off his back. He's got excellent throws. He pushes a good pace, and he's extremely durable. Ben took it to him, and Nate had an eye poke or whatever. But notwithstanding all that, that stuff happens in the cage, and he fought a great fight, and he beat a guy like Nate Diaz, and you have to give him the benefit of the doubt on that, even if you don't with Frankie Edgar. But I guess that's what makes that division so good. The division is so stacked right now, and that's just one of the things that that's just one of the things you're going to have to take into consideration when you're kind of weighing things out with fights like that. So what do we got Cesar on at 10 after? Or?
We have Cesar on right now, Mr. Matthews.
Right now? Okay.
He's here.
Go ahead. I'll let you make the
Well, yeah, it's been a while since we've had you on, Cesar. Always a pleasure. What's new? What's going on?
Same old stuff, in the martial arts world. But, people fighting, people training jiu-jitsu, stuff like that. How you guys doing?
Doing good. So there's a lot to talk about. I want to kind of get your take right now while we have you. We were just talking about the big fight that happened 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman. What's your take on that whole thing? Because obviously that was kind of a big upset, but what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, how old is Anderson Silva these days? He's like 38 years old or something, and I really think it's like a passing of the torch. I really do. Weidman is a really tough guy. He's got all kinds of skills. Good jiu-jitsu guy, incredible wrestler, and hits really hard, good stand-up. And you're fighting, Anderson Silva. He's just one of the most technical guys that's ever fought in the UFC. But, let's face it, he's on the wrong side of 40 right now, getting close to 40 years old. And he doesn't have the chin he used to. He can't get away with the games he played. You get an aggressive guy on him that's going to, hit him hard. He's going to go down, and that's what happened.
Yeah, were you surprised at all at the outcome, or not really?
No, not really. I kind of figure, we've been talking about it, me and some of the guys. It's like, I think it's been his time to, his run might be over. Not that he doesn't win a rematch necessarily, because he's definitely skilled enough to win a fight. If he gets in the best shape of his life and he takes it seriously, he's got a couple of really good fights that he can still put out there. And it is possible for him to win this rematch. But all in all, we're going to see him start losing fights, I think, and start to be a lot more human than he has been in the past.
Okay, well, there you have it. Let's talk about another recent fight that happened. One of your fighters, Leslie Smith. She fought in last weekend's Invicta card. She won the fight. Yeah. Give us your thoughts on her performance and on how everything went for your team that night.
Me coming up with this martial arts thing and everything, and especially in MMA, I just was never a huge fan of women's fighting, to be honest with you. But it's women like Leslie Smith that makes a fan out of you, because she just gets out there and she's just nonstop, and a lot of these ladies here, they're showing so much skill. Their jiu-jitsu is getting so much better. Their stand-up and their wrestling, and you name it. And it's kind of like you learn to appreciate it. So I was really impressed with Leslie. She just gets heart and soul in the academy. And I really think she's one of the most exciting women's fighters in the world right now, if not the most exciting. She reminds me kind of like a Cyborg or something like that, someone that just goes all out, and you're like, wow, you've seen a Leslie Smith fight. It's very impressive, and I think she's doing great things for Invicta, and she's bringing a lot of fans out there, so I was very happy to see her win.
Okay, so what was the turning point for you? As you just said, you weren't necessarily always a fan of women fighting in mixed martial arts. Was it people like Leslie Smith that got you really involved, or was it the time when, I know Ronda Rousey's a kind of a regular there at your academy. Was that the kind of turning point when Ronda started training, you started to see what these females were capable of, or was it just more in-house for you?
Ronda was honestly one of the first females that I have seen in my life that she can tap out guys, and I'm talking about good guys. She's that explosive. She's that good. And, her commitment being an Olympic level athlete and everything, the way she just does stuff, she taps out really good guys. And that was like, I mean, it's not just for women. She can compete with men when it comes to grappling. So if you don't have an incredible game against her, you're going to get tapped out or something. So, yeah, she definitely showed me that the women can not only be exciting with other, in fights with the other women, whatever, but also that, like, they can compete with the guys even. So just very good everything with skills with her. And definitely got my attention. She impressed me. So women like her, it's like, hey, this isn't just a little hobby, the fighting and the sport jiu-jitsu and everything, but something that they really do full time, and they're down for training 100%. And, women like that kind of said, okay, these girls belong here.
Hey, since we brought it up, and you have such a good relationship with Rhonda, and you know her well, what does it say about her being added to the a fight like Anderson Silva and Weidman's rematch, which is already being called probably the biggest fight in UFC history? We're talking about her second fight in the UFC, and already here she is sitting right underneath the greatest fight, the guy who's called the greatest fighter of all time. What does that say about her and her position and her as a martial artist right now?
Oh, it's absolutely huge. I think really she took the role that was left by Gina Carano, where Gina kind of transcended the sport, where it wasn't just about, it was a lot about the persona. Here's an athlete that can fight, and we can, put in a whatever, with armor, a commercial, and kind of be a, these women that do the swimming or the tennis or anything, and they get all the advertising and sponsorship dollars, and they can kind of be spokespersons for a sport. And Gina, when she was fighting, and she headlined, I think it was the Strike Force and everything, and it was one of the biggest ever at the time. And it kind of just proved that. And with Gina kind of retiring to do movies and everything like that, really it was Rhonda that came out, and they needed a new leader like that, someone that good, championship material, and so forth, that could transcend the sport also. So yeah, it's impressive. It is, and it brings a lot of people and a lot of eyeballs to the sport.
What do you think about the rematch? I'll be honest with you. I think for me, it's like, well, I think it's going to be a great season, and I think it's going to be extremely entertaining. But it's not like the fight was even close the first time. Rhonda just pretty much went in there, did what she wanted to do, and put her in about 5 different arm bars, and then finally finished her with one. So what do you think about the second fight? I mean, you hear Misha saying she's going to shoot herself in the face if she gets arm barred again. But, people haven't been able to stop it. People in training have problems stopping it. I mean, it's just not your typical jiu-jitsu guy or grappler throwing up an arm bar. What do you think about the fight the second time around?
I think for Misha to stop something like that, she would have to just train with some seriously world-class men who are armbar specialists, and for her to, not get caught up in that. The thing with Rhonda, believe it or not, her stand-up has gotten much better also. She's sparring a lot, and she's put that dedication, the same dedication that she had for the grappling part, and she's putting that into the stand-up game. And so she's actually doing pretty well. I've seen her sparring with people, and it's come a long way. So she's going to have more than that threat, I think, for this fight. What I don't want to see is Misha have her arm torn off again. I just don't want to see that. I want to see a ref that doesn't allow that to happen, because people don't understand. You could lose your arm with an injury like that. You break all the ligaments and you tear the tendons and everything like that again, and you literally sever all of them. There have been grotesque, like I've seen wrestling matches where people have actually lost their legs because of stuff like that. We've been fortunate in jiu-jitsu not to really see that, but I'm aware of that, actually injuries that can happen, that you'll lose a limb. And can you imagine what that would do for a sport? this lady lost her arm. And I mean, you know what I mean? So I really don't want to see something like we saw last time with Nisha's arm just all bent over, out of shape and everything. No one wants to see that. But I think as far as the rematch is concerned, I mean, there's definitely things that Ronda has done incorrectly in the past, and that's giving her back up a couple times. Even in the fight with Carmouche, I believe it was, when Carmouche was trying to crank her neck, whatever, from the back or up. I think it's off of a missed throw. She does that sometimes and scrambles. It's her judo background, but I'm sure she's going to address that and, get a little better. I might even go down there, train with her a little bit. We cross-train a lot, obviously, and, but I'm kind of seeing that fight is going Ronda's way again.
Amazing. All right, another thing, Cesar. I'm sure we have tons of topics we could talk to you all day, but something that's really on the top of my mind since you haven't done a lot of interviews in a while, so I want to try to get some stuff, even though it's a little dated and a little old. How disappointed were you? Okay. How disappointed were you in the Nate Diaz versus Josh Thompson fight? Because we never saw Nate lose like that. I'm sure you know George and I did this like epic interview with Nate after the fight. We got something like 50,000 live views on that, and it was just this incredible thing for George and I. We got Nate's side, but from your side, even though like I said, we're way far removed from that, but I mean, it had to be some major disappointment there, right?
No, without a doubt, there was disappointment, and I think. With Nate, I think he's very skilled. He's extremely skilled. I mean, I could see him, like, if these guys sparred, I see Nate winning. If they're on the ground, I see Nate winning. But sometimes he brings that anger and that street mentality into a fight, as opposed to settling down a little bit and understanding that it's not that kind of a fight. And when you have that kind of mentality, I think you can make mistakes. And I told them in the locker room exactly what I was thinking. Hey, look, this guy's going to, do this, this, and this, and then he's going to follow it up with that kick to the head, because you always lean to your left side off of combinations. But then he gets that from boxing, I think, bam, and I think they watched the videos, and Nate used to do a lot worse than that back in the day. Off of a right-hand punch, he would lean to the left, and if you just toe the kick, it's going to be there. You know what I mean? And I told Nate in the locker room, I said, look, he's going to do this, and he's going to throw this kick. Consistently, that's what's going to happen. And he still got caught up in that. You know what I mean? So I think it was he needs to settle down a little bit more, and he's a much better fighter than that. And I think there's a lot of things going on. I think it's, he sometimes thinks of where he's at as a sports figure, how much he's done for a sport, how much, what his compensation is and everything. I think there's a lot of things that get into his mind that upset him and everything. And I think it affects him. And I don't know, there's a lot of things, but Josh fought a very smart fight, and he got the win. But yeah, I think Nate, he needs to take some time off. He's in Australia right now doing some seminars. He needs to just kind of settle down a little bit, and he'll come back a lot better.
Okay, good to know. What about Nick now? Because obviously you're forever linked to these two brothers. So Nick recently became an MMA promoter with his War MMA. They had a pretty good debut as a promotion, I thought. But what are your thoughts on that? Is he going in the right direction, or do you think he should focus on fighting, even though he's retired? So now we're hearing rumors that he wants to come back. We might get a fight announcement coming soon. I mean, just Give me the rundown on that whole situation.
Sure. Yeah, obviously I was at the show with Nick and everything, and I think they did a really good job. I think that show, there was a couple of things. Although the production was really well, I was happy with it, the stream and everything like that. Had some good fights, and it was put together really quickly and well done for the time that it was put together, but it was put together kind of quick. I don't have the figures or anything like that on it. I can't see it being a moneymaker. But yeah, I enjoyed it, being there, watching the fight and everything. Now, as far as his fighting and everything, it's funny, we've been texting back and forth and everything. He's been in Vegas. He's back now. I think he got back 2 days ago. And, there is an offer on the table. That's all I can say. And it's something that everybody's looking at right now. I'm going to discuss it with him. Send him what I thought about it and everything. And Dana has offered him a fight. There is an offer on the table. I can't tell you who it is. It's kind of neat, I think. but no decisions have been made for sure. I'm not him. So I would tell him, hey, look, the whole promotional game, and you're still, what is he, 29? He's turning 30, I think, next month. There's a lot of fights left, and he's got to. I don't know. I would say, look, man, you need to. Let's maximize your career here and everything, and that would be my advice to him. And try to be happy with your contract and do these fights, and you got a lot of talent.
So that would be your advice to him is let's get back to it and finish out your career strong, because I know this guy's one of the biggest stars, and this guy's one of the biggest stars in MMA, not just currently but probably in history, So to see him go out, he's not doing a justice to himself. That's what I think. He needs to continue with it. So I'm glad you're there with probably the majority of the MMA world.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. You can't, 29 years old, he's got so many good fights, and just anyone who's ever watched YouTube or something like that and seen how technical this guy is and what just a technical monster is and everything like that. I think the fans really appreciate his fighting style, how he brings that technique and that that veracity and everything to a fight. That man, you're a fighter, and this is what you do. So I definitely always encourage him. But he's his own man, and he's got to do things at the right time for him. You can lead the horse to water. You know what I mean? You can't make him drink it. You got to understand this guy's been fighting for 12, 13 years or whatever, and it's kind of like, man, that's a tough life. So yeah.
At this point, for Nick, I really don't think a lot of other fights other than guys who are pretty much in line for title shots make much sense for him, unless it's just some sort of stellar style matchup that the fans are craving to see. But the fight that's on the table for GSP right now is Hendricks, and to me it seems like the obvious thing is for Nick to be fighting the winner of that fight, or in some scenario there to try to push himself into the title picture, because he does kind of have he is in the position where he can kind of still stake that claim, because many people arguably think that he beat Condit, and Condit is kind of sitting right there on the cusp of in the same area. So what do you think about the GSP Hendricks fight and a potential at how Nick matches up with Hendricks? We've seen him against GSP, and what you might do differently against GSP this time.
Hendricks, and it's no secret. Let's face it, Hendricks comes out and tries to knock your head off, and he's got 2 rounds of that probably. Seriously, he goes hard. He's a great wrestler. I think this is the first time really that GSP might have a guy that can take him down. Hendricks is just such a phenomenal wrestler. The he's so good at it. And he hits really hard. He's a threat to anybody. I could see GSP getting knocked out in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. I think what GSP will do is come out and bring him into deep water, the later rounds, and win the fight that way. I think he's going to try to fight a smart fight against Hendricks. As far as Nick is concerned, if he does want to get in the fight game. I think he's a fighter by heart. I think there's a lot of stuff he doesn't agree with, and I'm very politics, this, that, whatever. But it's like, man, you're a fighter. You can't. It's hard to keep him away after a while. So we'll have to see with that. But the Hendricks fight is interesting. I see GSP probably winning it, either by stoppage in the late rounds or maybe a decision. Is what I'm thinking, something like that. And so that's a good one. But I would love to see Nick back in there and everything. I don't think we saw the best Nick versus GSP. There's a lot of things there, and maybe one day I'll do an interview and kind of explain everything to you guys, what happened on that night. But I don't think tonight's the day for that. So I'd love to see him back in the title picture for sure.
We didn't get to touch on it real quickly when we were talking about Nate. Would you like to see him stay at 155, or do you think it's better for him at 170? Where do you think where do you think the best Nate Diaz lies?
Well, here's the thing. It's kind of like, look, if you're going to fight at 170, he's going to have to pack some muscle, primarily in his legs, is what I'm thinking. He's got, unlike Nick, he has thinner legs. He's very tall. He's got good upper body strength. He definitely gets up there weight-wise, but he'd have to pack on a lot of muscle. At 155, the problem, you don't, he can fight at 155, but it only be twice a year. It just would, because it'd have to be more like what boxers do, fight every 6 months or something along those lines. Because asking a guy to fight every 3.5 to 4 months at that weight, the cut is just too hard on his body. He has to do it the right way, twice a year. It would be good for him. And other than that, if he was fighting more often, he definitely would have to jump to 170. It's not where I would like to see him fight at. It's the reality of, you've got a guy, what is he, 27? He's, you only get bigger. You only get, it's harder for the pounds to come off. That last fight, the guy was, I was for the weigh-ins, the doctor didn't even clear him the first time. His heartbeat was so high, and there were, like, we were getting into physical problems. Like, his body was starving, and it was very hard, So we have to look and see if he can maybe, walk around a little smaller. I don't know. We'd have to talk to a nutritionist. Is probably the best bet.
Well, when we talked to Nate before, we had that, when Pedro was alluding to the hour interview we did with Nate, one of the things we talked about, and that he stressed to us, was that he thought that it would make more sense for mixed martial arts, and specifically the UFC, to have more weight classes for situations like this. We've seen it with, like, Rich Franklin. Mm-hmm. You see it with Vanderlei Silva. The guys kind of like sit. They're not really. They can't really make one. They can make 155, but it's a huge struggle. But they're kind of too small for the class up. So, does that make sense to make more weight classes, or does it bring the problem of diluting the championships and causing the same problem that boxing has now? Yeah, well, boxing is, you got every 4 or 5 pounds. It's a little bit different. So you got to compare apples to apples here. I do understand what Nate is saying. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys out there. That's not just Nate. There's a lot of guys out there that are in between weight classes, and they're literally too small for the weight class up, and too big. It's too hard of a cut for the weight class down. So I think he was talking about maybe a 163 or I can't remember. We had that conversation before too, around that time. And for me, I'm all for it, because we're going to see people fight at their best. You're going to see a Nate Diaz actually be Nate Diaz at fight at his best if the weight class was even 160. It would be like, I know you can't do 155 to 160. That's why I think he said 162.5 or whatever it is, or whatever they make it, but you would see a guy feeling good and fighting, and you'd see the best of that, But, I'm all for it. I'm all for more weight classes, and because it's not fair. It's great for some guys. It's absolutely great for some guys, and absolutely horrible for other guys, the way it is now.
Right. Now, when we talked to Nate, and he mentioned to us that he wanted to fight at 170. He was only going to go to lightweight if they offered him some big name fights, some real credible opponents, or opportunity to get some of his losses back. That his argument was, because I kind of questioned it, I was like, man, 170, those guys just look bigger than you. And he said, I'm just as big as my brother. Is that an accurate statement, Cesar?
Yeah, he is just as big as his brother, except for the legs. His brother. Remember, his brother used to fight at 160 in Elite XC?
Right.
The 160 weight class. It was very popular there. Elite XC, I think they followed Pride weight classes, if I'm not mistaken. And so 160 was the lightweight. So he is just as big as his brother, but his legs are not quite as thick as Nick. So I don't think Nick could make 155. I don't know, but you'd have to pack in a little bit of power on his legs. That's all I think.
I'm sorry. I guess the call got cut for a second there. But yeah, during the interview, he definitely expressed to us that he thought that there was a definite need for more weight classes, and that it was like a detriment to be cutting weight for him to have to. He basically said he had to starve himself all year to make weight, like all year long. He's like, it was like being on this strict diet that was just completely unreasonable all year, and that a lot of fighters go through it. And he says, well, what, if I have to fight the same amount of fights, I might as well eat what I'm going to eat. It's the same. What's the difference? pay me more or
Right.
whatever, you know. And in
Yeah,
his
no, that's it. That's it. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's it. That's why maybe fighting twice a year. That's healthy. The guy, I mean, think about it. Look at the lifestyle of a guy like that. You do your fight. Bam, you get to go eat whatever, and then they announce the fight for you 3 months later. And you immediately have to start cutting weight again. And when you cut that much weight, even your training is more lethargic because you don't have any nutrition and you just don't feel good. You're cutting the weight. It's not just cutting weight. People think cutting weight for a week or something like that. But these guys have to cut weight for a long time and get way down there and then make another big weight cut of water and everything. So you're not seeing a lot of these fighters do their best fights. And I can't agree more with a guy like Nate, where if we had more weight classes, you would see people, you know, I mean, 15 pounds between a weight class. What is it? I say it's 155 to 170, and then 185, and then it goes to 20 pounds, so 205. Now, how ridiculous is that? Imagine how many people fall, and then 200,
55,
and
55 pounds on top of that at that point, 265.
And then, yeah. Think about that for a second. There's no weight class between 205 and 265.
Yeah, 60 pounds actually.
That's insane. That's insane. That's just what kind of championship? You know, it's like, okay, but I understand it in the beginning because you can't have that many belts, you know. But now that the sport is so big, there has to be something in between 60 pounds. It's, you know, and these other ones also. It's just, I think it'd be better for everybody. I really do.
There was, one other fighter that I wanted to ask you about that performed recently. It was Gracie, and he had a tough outing against a seasoned guy like Tim Kennedy. What do you think Hodger needs to adjust in his game? You know, he's such a stellar jiu-jitsu practitioner. I mean, he really is the best in the world at that. And when you look at his mixed martial arts game, what exactly hasn't translated for him?
Well, it's funny, we were talking about the weight thing. Number one, 185 is too much weight of a cut for him. For example, 185. The guy is 6 feet 5 inches tall. It's just too big of a cut. So he's one of those guys that falls, you know, where if there was a little bit heavier, but not quite the next one at 205, whatever, it would help him tremendously. But as far as technical games were concerned, we're talking about, he needs to seriously pick up on his stand-up, I'm sure, and I'm sure he knows that. It's no secret. He's a young guy. He's a tough guy and everything, but, you know, he's got to work that other stuff. MMA is different than just a jiu-jitsu tournament or something like that, as everyone's aware of. You know, with the kind of length that he had and everything, you know, can you imagine if he had a jab? He'd be like 6 feet 5 inches, whatever. No one would get near him. You know what I mean? A good jab, some good Muay Thai. If he put all that stuff and added it to his formidable jiu-jitsu skills, then you're going to see a whole new Hodger Gracie right there. So you know, that's not stuff that's not a secret. It's like, yeah, obviously he's got to work that stuff as opposed to trying to get takedowns on Kennedy or whatever, a better wrestler than him. But he's got the range, and there's no reason he shouldn't have been able to beat that guy standing, actually.
Yeah, I think that was a general consensus, is that most people, you know, when they're reading down the stats and the tail of the tape to, you know, Hodger does have this body type that is actually, he's built to be really a good striker also, and as you know, he already has the ground game. So I think a lot of people have a lot of high hopes for him to translate all those skills to mixed martial arts, and a lot of people were curious of your thoughts. But you know, you train a lot of successful jiu-jitsu guys, not only for jiu-jitsu competition or Pan Ams or Worlds or whatever it is, but for also mixed martial arts. So, you know, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys seem to be having a problem translating it to and bringing it inside the cage, and we're just curious of why that is.
Yeah, there's all kinds of reasons. I mean, the cage is not like a ring. It's hard. You can't corner somebody if there's no corners, number one. So, you know, as far as like the grabbing, jiu-jitsu was a sport meant for not so much MMA, but it was meant more for, you know, in a pure sense, for self-protection, like on the street, and as an art form also. So people wear clothes on the street. They don't will run around with, a pair of shorts and, no shoes and there's nothing, it's very hard to grab, and you don't get corners. You get people that are very good at being elusive, and they'll pot shot you to death, And if you can't match their stand-up, now think about it. Tim Kennedy's a guy that's done a lot of stand-up, but he came back. He was from a wrestling background back in the day. I know Tim pretty well, but nothing there is like some kind of. He's not going to go win the K1. That's my point. So you got to go look. Hodger's so much bigger and taller, and he's got a body that if he had a stand-up, these guys couldn't touch him. He'd be like just taking him apart on his feet. And I don't think he's getting the correct training possibly. I haven't talked to him about it. He does not train at my camp. So, but just, from a fan's perspective, I guess that would be my opinion. Looking at him as a coach, I would do what look at Gilbert Melendez from our team. I mean, the guy can strike. He doesn't have to do jiu-jitsu. He is very good at jiu-jitsu, but he'll beat you up standing up. He'll punish you, and it's because he trains with the best guys, Johnson and all these other guys that he trains with that have brought him to that elite level. And if Hodger did that too, he'll have a lot of success in this game. If he does not do that, the prediction is he's not going anywhere in the UFC.
Fair prediction. Now, you brought his name up, so I'm going to ask you, again, another dated topic, Cesar. Gilbert Melendez, when he fought Benson Henderson, did you think he won that fight?
I mean, yeah. I mean, of course I did. That's people will say, of course I did, because, being his jiu-jitsu coach and everything like that. Me just looking and I got to score that fight. So I was there and I got to actually score it and think, okay, I definitely thought he won that fight. A lot of people thought that he won that fight. A lot of champs thought he won. They came and told me and everything. It is what it is. It's a fight, and the judges are going to see it a different way sometimes than other people do. But I thought he was the real champ of the UFC. I think he is the real champ of the UFC.
I lean towards that assumption as well. Now let me ask you this, Cesar, because you had another guy fight, Jake Shields, recently. He actually returned to welterweight, defeat Tyron Woodley, and kind of got your team back on the winning track, because we're talking about Nick lost, then Nate lost, and Gilbert lost on the same night. How important was that for you guys as a team, for Jake to walk away with that win that night?
It was actually important because Jake won, obviously Leslie won in Invicta, and all the shows people don't really even know about. We're having a lot of good wins also, but like I said, the Gilbert thing. It's here's the thing, and people come up to how important it is to have a champ in the UFC. I mean, it's all subjective. I thought Gilbert won, so it's like I thought he beat him, and I understand that two judges saw it differently. I thought Nick beat Condit, and most people I talked to me thought the same thing. But the people that mattered saw it the other way. We could have had two champs right there in the UFC, and that's just the way it is. I can't do nothing about judges, One thing, and another thing, I'm not an MMA instructor, It's like you got guys that started with me, and I got them into fighting and everything, and that's how it happened. I understand that, but
right.
My thing is jiu-jitsu. Now, look, and I think I've succeeded at what I've done. If I never have a guy that started on my team that was the champ of the UFC, the judges happened to see it their way, It's when was the last time you saw one of my guys get submitted in the UFC? You never have. So, think about it. Out of 50 fights or whatever it's been, if you look at all the UFC fights ever have where you got a Cesar Gracie rep, there's never been a guy that has been submitted. And that's and same thing with Pride, and same thing with Dream, and it goes down the line. You know what I mean? It's like, look, these guys are not getting submitted because I think I did my job, and that's the bottom line. So that's all I can do.
Amazing. Now, one more question for you, Cesar, and we'll let you go. You've been gracious with your time. You've given me probably about a week of amazing headlines to run through off this interview. Give me your thoughts on Diego Sanchez versus Gilbert Melendez, because that's the most recent booking.
It's an interesting fight. You got a top contender in Gilbert Melendez, and you got a guy that's maybe not top contender material right now in Diego Sanchez, but people will like this fight because of the intensity it's going to bring. I think Diego is going to be running around yelling yes or whatever he does. And it's going to be an intense fight. And I think Gilbert will probably knock him out, is what I'm thinking. I see Gilbert winning by knockout on that fight, and or a lopsided decision. I know anything can happen in a fight, but I think it's a fan-friendly fight, and that's kind of how I see it ending.
Amazing. All right, Cesar. Well, we've taken up enough of your time this Wednesday evening. Again, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for coming back and doing an interview with us, and hopefully we get to talk to you soon.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thanks, Cesar.
Bye.
Bye.
Man, so what'd you think from that was the coach's perspective on Anderson's fight in the beginning right there. I was kind of listening very carefully to all that.
It was great. Cesar seems to think that Anderson is now on the downside, and that as he's aging, he's going to continue to lose.
Yeah, I mean, he literally that was verbatim what you just said right there, right? Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. What I like most about Cesar, seriously, bro, hopefully all of our listeners can appreciate the fact that the UFC did offer Nick Diaz a fight, that we did break that news on our show just now, because I know all the Diaz brother fans want to see Nick back in action. He was in Vegas talking to the UFC for the past couple days, as Cesar said, and the UFC did in fact offer Nick Diaz a fight to return to action and get back from retirement. So that's huge news. Out of that whole interview, it's always very insightful, and it's always great to talk to Cesar and get his take on everything. But that's what I took away from that interview, is we just broke that. Nick Diaz, possible return to the UFC, possible come out of retirement to fight. He has a deal on the table, and, that's huge.
Any guesses? I have a guess.
What's your guess?
Demian Maia.
You think that's the fight?
Yeah.
That's a good guess. Cesar kind of alluded to it, that it was a very interesting fight.
Tell me that isn't interesting.
It's an interesting fight, but I think that heavily favors Nick. As long as it's not a wrestler, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Don't give him.
Demian Maia's got good takedowns.
He has great. Look what he did to John Fitch. He has amazing takedowns.
So he lateral dropped Chael Sonnen and then strangled him.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, is that's an interesting fight because and let me tell you this right now, Nick. And Cesar just said none of my guys have been submitted. Let me tell you something. I don't think Nick is going to get submitted by Demian Maia. All right, that's my personal opinion. As a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm sorry, but I don't see it.
No,
okay?
he won't. He will not get submitted by Demian.
I don't see it. He might get a guard pass. Something like that. But he's not submitting. And again, we're not saying the fight's going down. This is my guess. Is what I look at what's going on here. It's not going to be Ellenberger. It's not going to be Campman. It's not going to be Condit. We know it's not GSP. We know it's not Hendrick. We want an interesting fight, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be some guy who's on his way up. It's not going to be like a guy who's like, oh, we're hoping this guy's going to be, top. It's not Rory. We know it's not Rory. Let's look. Didn't Damian have a fight booked? And isn't the fight off?
Yeah, he was supposed to fight Josh Koscheck, and Josh Koscheck had to pull out with an injury. That left Demian Maia without an opponent. Yep.
Well, yep. Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good prediction, dude. Because seriously, you're right. Everybody's booked. That whole welterweight division, as stacked as it is, all those guys, all the top tier guys are freaking booked. The only thing where maybe it could be, maybe they offer him the winner of Ellenberger versus Rory McDonald. But again, that's kind of impossible. Because if they actually offered him a legit fight with a legit opponent, as Cesar said, then how could they act? I mean, they can't really put that in paper. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they can put that on paper, but you get face the winner of McDonald Ellenberger. But with that fight not having an outcome yet, even though it's just like a week and a half away.
The only other fighter that I can even think that would make somewhat of sense. It's not Dong. It's not Dong or anybody like that because Dong is fighting
Eric Silva.
That's right, Eric Silva. So we know that's not going down, right? So like the only other person I could even think that it would be at 170 pounds and it's not going to be this guy because the name isn't there, is Tarek Safadine. And the name isn't there. That Nick has to fight a name.
He's not going to return to action unless he's fighting a named opponent.
name.
That's
just not
100. He's definitely not going to do that, dude. There's no way in hell that happens.
He has nothing to gain by fighting guys without names at this point.
Tarek, mind you, I think that this guy's playing his cards all wrong because he's the last reigning Strikeforce champion. We haven't heard a peep from him. You know, he was supposed to fight Robbie Lawler. We had him on the show a few months ago. You know, and he had to withdraw with an injury. He didn't take the. What fight was he supposed to fight? Hendricks?
That's right.
No, he was supposed to fight Condit. He didn't take that fight. He turned down that fight. I mean, guy hasn't done himself any favors as far as building his brand as the last reigning Strikeforce champion. You know what I mean?
He brought it up to me actually when we were in Las Vegas, and everybody knows that Pedro brought this up to me specifically. He said, "Have you heard from Tarek Safadine?" And I said, "No. Have you?" And he goes, "No, I don't even think he's here." And sure enough, he wasn't. He wasn't even. Every fighter, everybody was there.
Everybody was there. That was very interesting that he wasn't there. I also found it interesting that T.J. Grant was not there. You have guys like Josh Thompson, Diego Sanchez.
T.J. Grant had a concussion. I will say that he apparently couldn't even get on a plane. He was that bad. I just haven't heard from Tarek. I know T.J. got injured, so like I get it with that. Like he didn't mention anything about an injury to anybody, and he didn't want to because he was potentially in a title fight, so he couldn't tell anybody about the injury. And ultimately, like you mentioned earlier in the show, he got pulled. But I don't know what Tarek's reason would be for not being at a fan expo and kind of putting himself out there because, like you said, he kind of does need to promote that brand.
He does, and he has a legitimate claim as the last Strikeforce champion. You know what I mean? And he's not working that, man. He's not playing that card very well. Anyways, it is what it is. You want to shout out to some of our sponsors real quick, George, while we have some airtime?
Yeah. Off the bat, man, Athletic Greens. I love this. I don't even want to call it a supplement. It's a green drink. It gives you a ton of energy. I use it before I go train. It just gets my day going. I mean, Pedro's taken it for quite some time now. It's just awesome.
Yeah, you can follow them at Athletic Greens. Check them out. They're awesome. You can visit their website at http://teambjpen for some special offers and some testimonials and stuff like that from not only our team but other athletes and well-known nutritionists. So, pretty good product. I would definitely check them out. We actually have a new sponsor on the table. Brand new, MMAwarehouse.com. They're awesome. They offer a 10% military discount, same-day shipping. They have a 115% price guarantee that they're the lowest price on the market of anything they have to offer, and they sell gear from the top MMA-related brands. They
are, just to set the record straight by somebody who buys a shitload of gear, they are the cheapest. Okay, they are. Nobody's cheaper. They must buy so much quantity that nobody can even touch it.
Yeah, and they also offer supplements and all this other crap, right? So they're a good company. They're backing us on bjpen.com right now, so very, very much thankful for that. MMAwarehouse.com. They're our latest and newest sponsor. We just closed that deal last week, so heck yeah, we're on the roll, bro.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I personally feel real comfortable with talking about both of those sponsors because I've used MMA Warehouse. It is the cheapest place to get gear, and like we've said, we've both been using Athletic Greens, and it's I'm not that person that will sit here and even spout anything that's not true. If something sucks, I'll just simply tell you, and it's definitely good stuff from both companies, and check them out.
Yep, pretty fortunate to have those guys helping us out with the funding of our show. So, heck yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, what do you think? What do you think about the double main event? You think it's going to be the biggest card of all time, or what?
No, I don't.
You think it's going to be? You don't think it's going to be? Some people are thinking it's going to be UFC 100. I don't see how.
No, it's not, dude. Let's get real. Anderson Silva isn't the biggest draw. He should be the biggest draw, but he's just not. So,
well, let me tell you this though: this show that just happened is going to do right at about 850 to 900,000 buys. Okay, This last show, 800,000 buys, somewhere in that neighborhood. If this last show is trending somewhere in that area, then what does that say about the rematch? And then you throw Ronda Rousey, who, by the way, did very well on pay-per-view by herself. Okay? This is a million buy show. It's a million buy show. It's going to do...
It should be. Yeah, you're right. It should be.
I'll tell you this. It's going to do a million, and it may, depending on the last week. You don't know, because I'll tell you this. Like, there's a lot of intangibles there. How Anderson promotes the fight, okay, is a big one, obviously. The other thing is the season of Ultimate Fighter that's about to happen. If that season ends up being a good season, then people are going to be wanting to see the co-main also. You know, that's going to lead to a big buy rate. I hear people talking about it already. I'm pretty sure this one's going to do a good chunk over $1 million. Whether it does 1.6 and some change like 100 does, I don't know about that. But I'm thinking 1.1, 1.2 maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood. If I had to guess right now, it's going to do over $1 million.
You could be right. I'm not sure. I honestly, I don't know that. I haven't really been sold on Anderson Silva's drawing power. I think he's the best fighter of all time. I know that when he fights, I watch every single fight. But a lot of the world, he's not very relatable in America because of his broken English and he can't really relate to the American fans, which are the pay-per-view buyers. So
I agree. The only thing is that when he has an opponent, he does draw, and he draws real good when he has an opponent. When the guys he's had good, when he's had a good opponent that does build the fight, he does draw well. He does very well. His fight with Chael did huge numbers. The fight that he just did with Weidman did huge numbers. There's the rematch is going to do even. It's just going to do bigger. It's going to, even without Ronda on the card. And the thing is about Ronda's fans, that Ronda's fans aren't MMA fans. That's a different group of people. That's a totally different group. Ronda's fans are not on Sherdog, and they're not on the Underground. Maybe a few of them are. That is a completely different demographic of fans that Ronda brings to the table. And that's why I think, whereas if you put another name guy on the card that draws well, let's say you put like a Chael on the undercard as the co-main, I don't think that Chael will bring more fans to the pay-per-view buy rate than the same way that Ronda will. Ronda will literally add to the total because her group are people that aren't even part of this of this demographic. She just brings a completely different audience in there. I think it's a smart move, and I think it's going to do big numbers because of it. I think it's going to do huge numbers. I just don't think it's going to beat the top of the heap show.
You could be right. You probably are right, actually. That girl's a marketing machine. She's broken media boundaries where no other fighter has been able to break. So there's a very big possibility that you're right if the UFC markets that whole show properly, which they probably will. Now, the big intangible is Chris Weidman has to stay healthy. Anderson Silva has to stay healthy.
That's a big one.
And those two females also have to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And as the way things go, what did we have? We had like 6 fight cancellations due to injury last week alone. You know what I mean? This shit is plaguing in MMA. These guys are overtraining and they're hurting themselves, guys and girls. Sorry, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. Potentially, both main events could not happen. We don't know. We're way far off from December. December 28th is a long way away. Months fly by very quickly, but let me tell you that's a long way away in terms of starting a fight camp and walking into the cage. A lot of stuff happens in between then, and you're definitely right. And those are 2 high-level fights where that both competitors are going to pull out all the stops to try to win. I expect Anderson to really train his ass off for this rematch and to pull out all the stops to get that title back. And I expect Weidman to train even harder for the rematch. And, you look at the co-main with Ronda and Misha, it's going to be the same thing. These guys that are that are doing a reality show. Misha wants vengeance for sure for getting her arm snapped off her body, but Ronda wants to snap the thing off again. So, I mean, yeah, these guys are going to train really hard, and you're right. There's a potential for the thing to not even happen at all. So,
you're right.
But we'll see. I think it's going to be a big show, and one of the definitely the biggest of the year. I don't know the biggest of all time, but definitely the biggest of the year.
Biggest of the year, yeah. That's definitely it. Definitely for MMA fans, for people who are actually real fans of the sport, it's the biggest fight of the year. Is it the biggest fight of all time? What is your biggest fight of all time? I kind of want to say Lesnar versus Mir too. That was a huge fight. That was UFC 100, right? Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that was a huge fight. Okay.
The build-up was so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Brock was ripping doors off. Mir was telling him to go, or it was like Mir's trainer saying, "This isn't the WWE," and then the actual fight itself delivered. It delivered big time. It was a lot of drama in that fight. It wasn't like this back and forth war. It was like the pro wrestler coming for vengeance or something. It was crazy, and it was the drama that built it up. That's one of my favorites. It's not quite my favorite. I think I've told you a few times that my favorite fight that I ever watched live was Chael versus Anderson, the very first fight, because of the little roller coaster it took me on. But yeah, Lesnar Mir too, man, was just awesome.
Yep. Now we're about 8 minutes or so away from our next guest. Mr. Joe Diesel Riggs is supposed to come on at 10 after the hour. He's on that show on Spike TV with Bellator, Fight Master. Is that what it's called, Fight Master?
Fight Master, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, admittedly, we won't tell him this when he's on the air, but I haven't watched that show, not even one episode. Not even 1 minute of one episode.
I have.
I know you have, though, exactly. So, you're gonna be carrying the torch on this one, Mr. Matthews. You're gonna have to freaking, handle this interview. I'll ask him some questions about some other items and whatnot. But
well, the thing is, I'm not sure how much he can even tell me. So I don't think he can really tell me much.
Maybe you can tell me right now while we're on the air. I know this show is basically the fighters fight. If they win, they get to pick who their coach is. Is that right?
Yes, they get to pick whose camp they go to.
Okay, now Joe Riggs, he's obviously on the show, or else I wouldn't have gotten the request from Spike to get him on our show. So he won, and he's like in the house or whatever, correct?
Yeah, well, Joe Riggs hasn't. I haven't seen him pick his coach yet.
He hasn't picked his coach?
Yeah.
Have you been following the show?
I've been following the show. The only episode I didn't see the end of last week's episode. I saw the beginning. I saw the first half of it. I did not see the last half I was watching on the plane. Made me shut my laptop down.
Maybe Adam can help me out. Mr. Conklin, can you help me out here?
But I watched every other episode, and I've seen. So that's the only one I'm not caught up on. But at any rate, it's a very good show, though. I'll tell you that much. You're actually doing yourself a disservice by not watching it, because the concept of it is actually extremely refreshing. The way they're doing it, and it's actually extremely manipulative when you're watching these coaches. Because the coaches sometimes look at the fighter and they're like, "I don't want that guy," because they're looking at they watch the guy fight and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't really want that guy," but then that coach might pick that coach anyway, because he's like, "Oh, I want to get coached. I want to go train with that guy." So then sometimes the coaches don't even really want the fighter. The good thing is about Joe Riggs is that I think every coach wants him.
Right.
He's like a coach's dream.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy's a veteran of the UFC, of Strike Force, and he's really good when he's on. He's really bad when he's not. But what do you think? Do you think he's going to win this show?
He's my pick to win the show.
For sure. I mean, he's by far the most seasoned veteran. I was kind of surprised when I heard him even be that he was even on the show, because he's kind of almost too seasoned to be on a reality show of this nature. Would you agree or no?
Joe Riggs is an extremely good fighter. Joe Riggs is he's a UFC caliber fighter, and I'm not. That's not a knock towards Bellator, but you know what I mean. And he's beaten good guys. He's beaten really good guys. He's a tough fighter. You know as well as I do, man. He trains with Ben Henderson, and Ben has always said such awesome things about him. Every person that's trained with him has always just remarked about how great of a mixed martial artist and how well-rounded he is. And he's just a student of the game. And he was like a young kid back when we first started watching mixed martial arts, but now he's like a veteran of the game. So he's won probably like 5 fights in a row now. I think he's won his last 5. Since he's undefeated since 2011. He's my pick. He's stumbled in his career. He'll be the first one to admit it. He's always been very, very open about things and problems he's had and things he's overcome. And he struggled a little bit in certain spots, and I just don't think that's a reflection of his ability, his real ability. I think that when he's on, he's just incredible.
I agree. I've always been a fan of his. It's just unfortunate to see him. Did he have a pain pill thing going on, like some kind of drug issue going on, or am I wrong with that? Am I thinking of just he did, right?
That was, and he's had some demons there, and he's worked them out. Won 5 in a row. I mean, this is a guy that you look at the names he's fought. It's unreal. We're talking about somebody who's got over 50 professional fights. 50. Okay? And he's not like an old man, but he's fought like the best guys. He's fought guys like Matt Hughes. He's fought guys like Chris Lytle, Nick Diaz, Mike Swick, Diego Sanchez, Phil Baroni, Kazuo Masaki, just so many, Kendall Green, fought Kendall Grove. It's just a lot of guys, man. I mean, the guy is so experienced. He's fought so many people who were number 1 contenders, top 5, or world champions. And I mean, how can you not favor him in a situation like this? 55 fights. I mean, what is anybody going to do to him in that house that he hasn't seen?
They're not going to be able to do anything to him that he hasn't seen.
That's and you know what? Maybe I'm going to eat shit on this prediction, okay? But I'm going out on a limb, and I'm just going to say that Joe Riggs is going to own in that house. I just don't. To me, it seems like he won 5 in a row. That he should be calling Joe Silva.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? And I fully intend to ask him about that, because I'm really surprised. He's training with guys the guy like Ben Henderson. This is the best lightweight in the world right now, rankings wise. You know what I mean?
The problem is he doesn't have the best reputation out there. You know what I mean? He's known as the guy who can beat anybody on any given night, but more often than not, he doesn't show up. So regardless of his current win streak, he really has to. He more than anybody has to prove himself beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's ready for the big show, because he's had so many failed opportunities out there. Maybe it's a Cinderella story, man. Maybe this is something big for Mr. Riggs. I hope so. We never wish bad on anybody, but it's just hard to tell. I haven't watched the show. Again, I haven't watched the show, so I don't really know. Please don't tell him I haven't watched the show while we're on the air, though. Our listeners can know that, but let's not let Mr. Riggs know.
Well, he's 30 years old. He's going to turn 31 in a few months. He's not an old fighter. This is a guy he's got so many fights, but he's been fighting for a long time. That's another interesting thing is even with the age, there is something to be said about the mileage on your body. We've seen it with previous fighters who aren't who aren't old. I'll give you a good name that reminds me of this. Joe Stevenson. Joe Stevenson is young, okay, and we haven't. He pretty much, that he got wore out. I mean, he's been fighting since he was 16. They were fighting since they were very, very young. A lot of these fights, I imagine that the rules were a little bit lax too, because some of these fights happened a long time ago. We're talking about Joe Riggs was fighting in 2001. 2001. Like, there wasn't a lot going on in the way of regulation in 2001. All right, I can tell you that. And it's not like he was fighting in modern day UFC. A lot of these were on small shows and things like that. And these were tough fights back then. You had to. People might have some mileage on them from that and all the training and things like that. So it's definitely something to take into consideration. But I still give him the nod based on skills and experience.
Yeah, I agree. He's supposed to have called us already, by the way, but he hasn't. So we'll see what happens. You know what, man? I was actually at his fight in Honolulu when he fought Kendall Grove. He got
a few years ago, right?
Yeah, he got choked out in like a minute.
Yeah. That's right. That was that. When was that fight? Was it a few years ago? Wasn't like that long ago. It was like
it was less than it was a couple years ago.
A couple years ago.
Yeah. About 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah, again, that's not taking into Kendall is a good grappler. Kendall's tough.
I think it was a standing guillotine.
Was it standing guillotine?
I'm pretty sure if I remember right.
Wow.
I was like really looking forward to that fight, and it just ended so fast. But that was his last loss, I think, right? I mean, was it?
Let me look at it. Yes, Kendall Grove was his last loss, and he was on a skid there. 3-fight skid. That was the third loss. So something changed, huh? Rattled off 5 in a row, and didn't just so again. You look at the he loses 3 in a row, all by TKO, KO, and 1 submission, and then he comes back, wins 5 in a row, all by finish in the first or second round, knockout, submission, whatever. So he turned around something. It'll be interesting to see how the show plays out, but it is a good show, man. And in a time where we're on MMA overload, everything. There's just so much. There's so many shows. There's like, we have going to amateur shows. You have amateur shows. You have professional shows. You have so much stuff going on that. It's you're just overloaded with it, but it's actually a really good show, and they did a good job with it. I was surprised because I don't expect much from MMA reality shows at this point.
Absolutely, because we're so used to the Ultimate Fighter and the way they do things, and Fight Master really brings a refreshing touch to everything. Completely agree with you, George. We have him on the line right now, the guy who we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes or so, Mr. Joe Riggs. How's it going, Mr. Riggs?
Not bad. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, definitely. I'm hoping the show does well. That's the big thing I'm hoping.
Well, I'll go on a limb and say we've been talking about you and your career and the show, and for the last 15 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes, and when I'll be honest, I look at the cast and the experience and things like that, and I just, do you feel like when you're looking at the guys alongside of you that you might have been the standout there? Because it really seemed that way to most fans, that you were really the standout there based on your skills, experience, and and recent win streak.
I didn't know. I mean, and still to this day, obviously I know it happened in the show. You guys don't. I wish I could tell you, but
you can.
Yeah, sure. I can.
But the big thing is, I don't know if I was brought in there just as a recognizable face that what they're using for one of their up and comers to be, or if they were trying to trying to build the show around me. I had no idea. I had no idea going in. So right away, I knew I was getting a lot of airtime through the show. Once I was on the show, and now I'm in the house, and I was followed around a lot. But it was really. I don't know if they were thinking about that, and because I'm a real humble person in real life, I'm not real arrogant, and I don't have I'm not a real dick, and that's it. A lot of the fighters thought I was going to come on the show and just be like that, and I wasn't, and that's what they said. I mean, I actually, I felt like fucking Yoda there, they all listened to my advice and stuff I did, even though I was like, in terms of age, from the youngest to the oldest on the show, I was right in the middle about. But, I felt like I was like 10 years older than everybody. It was weird.
Well, in their defense, in their defense, they may be thinking they may remember the story of you and Nick Diaz in the emergency room, and they're
I fucking told that story like 10 times. That's all they had so much, like, literally, because we didn't have shit to do on the show. So, I sit there and just tell stories of, funny shit that's happening. Because I have so many stories that have been so funny in my career with big name fighters that are friends with, that fucking people would just, So I was telling them, and they loved it. So it was good, and the younger fighters, I'd give them advice, and they were good enough they were smart enough to listen and not have to take the abuse and all the bad shit that went along with the sport. They just listened to me.
Yeah. So, what did you think about the entire how the show is very different from Ultimate Fighter? I think a lot of fans, that was the first thing when they first watched the show. It's to me it was very refreshing, and I think that's a general consensus. When you compare and contrast it, because that's really the Ultimate Fighter, I guess, is kind of the yardstick, only because it's the only other show that has done anything remotely like this. What did you think about the concept of it? It's a little bit different than coaches picking guys like you are in kickball and gym class.
I think it's a lot better. I think it's a lot better. For one, they have in my opinion, they have better fighters. They have there's guys ranging from I think the average guy is like 6-0 or something on the show. And then the Ultimate Fighter, the average guy is like 3-0. So, and there's a lot better fighters in the guys picking the coaches. That's a lot different. And they're going to reveal something on tonight's show that's also a lot different. The way the fights are chosen, they're gonna show that all of that's different. It's just way different than the UFC, than the Ultimate Fighter. And I thought it was really cool. And also they don't really pay attention to the drunkenness of the show and the other guys that didn't continue on the show. They paid attention to the guys that were still in the show, and then so all the guys that would fall off, they would pay the most attention to. So, because the drunks, the guys that fall around drunk and kind of make a mockery of the sport. Like I forget what Ultimate Fighter was. That fucking guy with the red ball hawk with that dipshit. That guy made me embarrassed fucking what I do for a living. That guy was an idiot. You know what I'm talking about?
Which guy is it?
You know what I'm talking about? Huh?
Which guy is it? Which guy is it you're referring to?
He had a red mohawk, and he was like crying and beating shit up. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I don't remember him. I know exactly who you're talking about, and I don't remember his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about. If we can get, well, I'll see if I get our guy on Twitter who's tweeting the show out right now. I'll see if I can get him to look it up real quick and get his name real quick. But if Adam, if you can get his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about, and I remember the episode.
Yeah, that guy was a fucking. I was so embarrassed to even they call it a fight because people would watch that show and then they think we're all a bunch of fucking dumb meatheads like that. And we're not. Like that guy, I don't even know that guy, and I'm probably, never know that guy's name again. And I'm sure Spike Lowe, but I'm sure Fox loved it. The guy crying and being all manic and fucking drinking. Yeah, obviously the guy's got a massive alcohol problem.
Oh my gosh! It was the
fucking drunk,
It was the guy from Columbus, Ohio. My girl's gonna hate that because my girl's from Columbus. She's a Buckeye fan, but that's what we're talking about. That guy from Ohio. I forget his name.
Yeah. Fucking drunk Dunkerson.
But what do you? I mean, there's been some.
Who gives a shit what it is? He's a fucking drunk.
There's been some other crazy. The other crazy stuff that's gone on in Ultimate Fighter. I mean, I think there's been more embarrassing stuff. People pissing in food and nutting in food, and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, I did some like there was one time like a camera crew was getting on my nerves because it was probably like the 4th or 5th week, and they left a camera in my room, and I know that the producers were watching downstairs, but they were going to put this on TV. So I go over and pull my pants down and start slapping my balls against the camera so they can see it. But so that's just me like a monkey just trying to release some tension and throw my wiry balls on his squins, and they all come, God damn it, knock it off, So I was just trying to. Have a little fun because there's really not shit to do. There was a funny time where I come from cutting weight. They don't even. I talked to one of the producers. I tell you guys this because they don't show it on TV. I come from cutting weight and I take my shorts up, my underwear off that are all stained with shit probably and whatever, and I threw it in Tim Welch's face like a perfect shot to the lips. And he peeled him off his face and he wheeled them at me. And it hits the camera guy right in the lips. And he went down and started about throwing up because they were like saturated with sweat, piss, and shit. And he's like, when I'm cutting weight, I'll sit there and piss myself. That's bad. So yeah, there was some crazy times, but they didn't concentrate on that.
You are a riot, Mr. Riggs. This is good stuff, bro. This is Radio Gold, man. You need your own show, brother.
Well, I got my own show down here. Yeah, I do my show once a week down here.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, but it's not like you guys. Well, we used to do like an AM radio station and shit like that. But it's cool. I enjoy it. I like radio. It's fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me ask you this, man, because you mentioned it earlier while we were listening to you talk. That you were like the storyteller of the house. That you told a lot of stories. Now we've heard the Nick Diaz hospital fight story. What other stories can you tell our listeners right now that maybe you told some of the guys at the house that might be worth telling?
This is one time that we were in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we were getting ready for UFC 60, and there was me, John Alessio, Joe Stevenson, Jay Heron, Mac Danzig, and myself, and I think that was it. We all packed into the apartment. We were training for the UFC 60, and we were all getting ready for something. So, anyways. And this guy Billy Rush, who passed away, he was there, and he had a girl with him. This was before I was married, and he's like, bring this girl over here. We were like, bring the girls over there. Anyways, these girls come all these hot girls come up there, and they're like, let's play spin the bottle, and they all take their shirts off, and I'm like, oh shit. And I'm really I'm a pussy around girls. I'm like kind of a shut in. So, and they all take their shirt off anyways, and it goes to Joe Stevenson. They dare him to get, I shouldn't even say this is bad. They dare him to take his pants off, and he took his pants off, and he had the smallest dick I've ever seen on a man in my life. Joe had the biggest Serbian bush. that little turtle. My son is a 5-year-old, and he has the same size dick as Joe Stevenson. And I was like, good God, man, how did you get your wife off with that little bastard? Anyways, but he took his pants off, And then I know the ladies were aghast, like, oh, look at that little fuck. So anyway, Jay Huron's next, and Jay takes his pants off, and he's got a fucking anaconda cock hanging down to his knees. I'm like, God damn it, fucking ashy dick hanging down. So I was like, oh fuck. So then it goes to me and like, go take your pants. Like, no, I'll be a good one. Then so go to John Alessio, and he has an uncircumcised dick, so they're busting his chops. So I'm like, God, I got all these fucked up dicks hanging around me. And Billy Rush was laid in the corner with a condom halfway hanging off his dick, just drunk in the corner. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Anyways, all these guys ended up getting blowjobs from these girls. And I just I think me and Joe Stevenson is just watching TV. And they're like, that was great, man, that was great. And then anyways, after that, Billy was like, oh, no, it was great. Yeah, the cows and the horse. and well, I won't name who, but one of them was eating the prostitute's vagina. And that is a disgusting mess of a thing to do. But to his credit, he didn't know she was a prostitute. So that was a fucking horrible thing.
Okay, if I guess his name, will you tell me? Well, if I guess his name, will you tell me yes or no? That was him.
I can't do it. That fucking ruined it. That would run his dick like the dirt. Oh man.
All right.
Bad. Thank God, I'm a chicken shit and not do anything like that. But yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, but it was good, man. Well, I hope you guys watch the fight sign and call me next week and we can do it again, man. I'll keep getting on every time, and I'll have a new story for you every time.
Maybe maybe we can do like a little weekly blog type thing where we kind of get your reflection on the show.
Let's do it, man. Call after every show. Call me. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Sounds good, Mr. Riggs.
One more question for you, Joe. We wanted to ask you one more question. Just real quick on a totally serious note, because damn, this has been some awesome interview. I'll be honest with you, it was really good. But you're on a 5-fight win streak. I think the general consensus is for most fans that I talk to is, why not? We think you'd be headed to the UFC because you've had success there before. You've beaten top guys.
I had a talk with Joe Silva right before I went for the show. It didn't go as planned, so it didn't go as planned, and he said to go, and if you go on the show, you better win the show. That's the last thing he said. So that's what he said to me. So I but I kind of waited. He told me what they had to offer, and then what Spike had to offer. So I went with them, and it turned out good. So I'm happy.
Well, definitely.
Yeah, Bellator is really, really, really good to me.
Well, and you know what? And it's been good to us too, because we wouldn't have had this awesome interview with that awesome story you just told us. So.
Well, I got fucking hundreds of them. So call me every week, man. We'll get it going.
Absolutely, man. Hey, it was good. It was good talking to you, man. We appreciate it, and we'll definitely be calling you.
All right, sounds good, bro. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Later, man.
Wow,
man.
Can you believe that? I can't believe that.
That was awesome.
That went way better than I expected. We didn't even have to ask any questions. Joe, just tell us a story. You know what, man? He's right. Every single freaking week, we have to have story time with Joe Riggs, because if the other stories are anything like that story, I mean, I don't know if you know it, but okay, Nick Diaz possibly returning, getting a fight offered by the UFC is a huge story. Joe Stevenson having the smallest cock in MMA might trump that. I don't know. And not only the smallest cock, but the biggest, quotes, I'm doing air quotes right now, as you can see, George, Serbian bush, the biggest Serbian bush, end quotes. That's amazing.
I'll tell you this. If that doesn't make you want to watch, like if Joe does not make you want to watch that reality show after that, then you have no fucking personality, and you just need to shut your TV off and read a book, okay? Because that, to me, I cannot wait to watch. Fight Master now.
That was amazing. We didn't get enough time with him. I had a lot of questions for him, honestly, like professional questions. But we didn't
even get into any of the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah,
I had to ask him about the UFC run, dude. I had to ask him because, it's the most obvious thing to ask him. I at least had to know, like, hey, why didn't you go to UFC? But we got the answer to that, and that's okay. That
dude came on, took over our show for the past 20 minutes, and then was like, all right, guys, nice talking to you. Call me next week. Peace. I was like, damn. He just like took the mic, said what he had to say, dropped it on the floor, and walked out of the fucking cage on us. That's what he just did.
Hey, I can tell you right now, that personality, man, that's gold right there, man. Joe Riggs can be a star with that. That's just gold. Yeah, and man, that is one hell of a story. And it's funny, I brought up Joe Stevenson, about 30 minutes ago.
You did. I know, man. You're like Nostradamus over here. Adam, Mr. Conklin, while you're tweeting out the highlights from our show, please tweet out, if you want to know who has the smallest and the biggest penis in the UFC, tune in to BJPenn.com radio, because Joe Riggs is telling it all. Can you please tweet that out?
Yeah. And that's no bullshit. He really did go into the complete detailed story, and it was a good attempt to try to get out who did the munching at the end. But no, I'm sorry, you couldn't.
I tried, dude. I was like, dude, if I just guess it, can you just say yes or no? One name, just come on. You know who it was? It was Jay Heron. Come on.
It had to be Jay Heron for sure, huh? Man, I'm still like in awe. I'll be honest with you. I'll let everybody on the air know. I literally had to mute my mic. I was laughing so hard while Joe Riggs was saying this.
Oh, you were cracking up, bro. I had to mute my mic too because I'm cracking up over here too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I just unmuted it every time, like every once in a while, just so that people could hear me chuckle. Because really, I mean, I just couldn't laugh over him the whole time.
I had to do that too. I didn't want him to think that I was absolutely dying of laughter. And then, when I think about it now, he said he does a radio show. I mean, it must be awesome.
It must be.
It must be awesome.
We needed more time with Mr. Riggs. I had no idea, bro. The Spike TV people hit me up. I think I was on Monday, and they said, hey, can you have time for Joe Riggs today? He's doing media. We'd like to promote the show. Can we get him on your show? And I was like, absolutely. So we made that work. But I mean, bro, like I told you, and I'm a real guy. I haven't watched the show. I didn't really have that much of expectations for this interview. But
what about now?
Dude, I was wrong. I was wrong about Mr. Riggs, about this interview, about this booking. We try to stick to UFC talent outside of the major stars, outside of the UFC, such as a King Mo and so forth.
UFC talent.
You know what I mean?
It is UFC talent in my eyes. He's just got too much clout over there. He's beaten enough guys that are A-listers for me to know that he is. You can make bad mistakes, and it can cost you things like fights and stuff like that. And I think that's where he's made a lot of mistakes. He's a young dude. A lot of his fights happened, in his early 20s and things like that. I mean, let me tell you what the fuck I was. Actually, I don't even want to tell you what I was doing in my early 20s, because this is not even it's less appropriate than what Joe Riggs just told you. Okay.
Believe it or not, in my early 20s, I was a very by the book kind of dude.
Well,
I've matured since then. I'm not by the book anymore, but back then I was.
Yeah, but and what I'm getting at is that can obviously can affect your career and the outcome of things like fights and training and stuff like that. And I think that he as he's gotten older, and he's 30 now and about to be 31, and I think that he's kind of he even said it himself. He felt like he was the Yoda in the house, like he was the level-headed one in there, the one with the most experience for sure. So, I think that it's going to be a good experience for him. If it's anything like, man, if that scene happened with the underwear and the camera and things like that, like.
Wait, did he say that he put his balls on the camera?
Yes.
That's what he said, right? I didn't mishear that.
No, but the better part was when the sweaty, shit-stained underwear from cutting weight ended up in the camera guy's face, and the camera guy was throwing up everywhere. That was what fucking. I was like, what?
Bro, come on, man. Come on, bro. I mean, we've had some pretty good interviews on this show. That was kind of Nate Diaz-esque. That was fucking amazing.
That was really, really good. And the best thing about it is he's coming back next week.
Yeah, we're gonna get him, bro. We're gonna get him.
Listen, and everybody, we only do usually 3 guests. We've had some times where we've done 2, and we've had to break down more stuff, like bigger fight cards and some other stuff going on. But we usually do 3. But we'll make time for Joe Riggs to recap the episode of Fight Master along with some stories. And it, you know, something had happened. It's going to be good stuff, you know. That was the first one that came off the top of his head, and let me tell you, that was really good. That was really good. I didn't expect it, and it was like he didn't even really want to say the names, but he was like, "Oh, fuck it, I'll just tell you." You know, I thought that was really cool, man, and yeah, I'm really happy about I'm really happy about this season of Fight Master. I can tell you that.
Yeah, me too, man. It's exciting. Now, let's talk about our next guest, George, because he's due in a couple minutes here. Mr. Scott Kent. He's the president and CEO of a Muay Thai promotion. Now, we're kind of jumping off the MMA beat to go into another combat sport that's featured on Access TV. And you know, I know you're a big fan. I know that one of your Muay Thai coaches is actually headlining their next card, so this is perfect for you.
Yeah, you know, it's a fight promotion that does a lot of Muay Thai fights. They get top tier Muay Thai fighters. They get world champions who fought in Thailand. My Muay Thai coach, that I used to train with, and I actually helped him in jiu-jitsu and things like that also. Chike, he's fighting in the main event. And again, you know, it's kind of like they book. It's very similar to the way it's booked to MMA. You know, they're booking an American Muay Thai fighter against a traditional Thai Muay Thai fighter. And you know, it does. I think it gives you that degree of separation too that you kind of want to see in main events. You know, the same way that you had a Cain Velasquez and a Brock Lesnar on the, and obviously of a different magnitude. You know, you don't have the UFC machine behind it and these larger than life names and personalities that are portrayed there. But that's the kind of general thing that you're gonna the same general formula you see reflected in you know. These type of promotions, also lion fights, and you know, they do the same type of things. And I think it's going to be a good fight, and it's going to be a tough fight, but it's going to be a good fight, and they definitely do put on some entertaining shows.
Now, usually we stick to strictly MMA on this show, right? I mean, we're pretty much MMA guys. Now, I have been to some of these Lion shows. I've also been to some Glory shows, which is probably considered one of their competitors. But I really do find the Muay Thai and the kickboxing scene more entertaining than mixed martial arts, because these are very high-level strikers. They're fast-paced bouts that usually end in finishes and in a very entertaining fashion. But just before we get him on the line, what are your thoughts on the Muay Thai scene in America?
Growing. Definitely growing. You know, like I said, you know, with my coach and things like that, I would always watch a lot of Muay Thai fights with him. And again, it's a sport that is growing. It's becoming very popular, and it's something that I think would have been popular a long time ago. It's just a matter of exposing the fans to it. Mixed martial arts. You know, you had to kind of give it to the fans the way they wanted, the way they wanted to see it, and then they caught on to it. It's the same type of thing. Muay Thai fights and kickboxing fights and fights in K1, they're extremely entertaining fights. It's almost all action. It's very different than watching a boxing match. I think that a lot of people are of that disillusion that you're going to see guys that are like, point fighting, and you just don't see that in Muay Thai fights. You see
Absolutely not.
You see guys going for the kill.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, well, we have him on the line right now. Let's not delay it any longer. Mr. Kent, how's it going, sir?
Everything's going great, thank you.
Thanks for joining us this evening, sir.
You bet. I appreciate you having us on, and I know you guys have a MMA format, but I think there are a lot of inroads to mixed martial arts. All of the MMA guys train in Muay Thai, and to be honest, we get so much MMA representation at our fights. I think it's great, and there's certainly a natural connection there.
Well, there is, and like I was just telling George, I've been to a couple of your shows, and I've been to some other kickboxing events, and I have not been more entertained at a fight than when I see these Muay Thai fights, transpire in front of my eyes, because they're always very high level, very explosive finishes, and as a fight fan, there's nothing more you can ask for. So I really appreciate what you're doing.
I appreciate that. We looked at this when we started to put this company together, and we asked people, what do you like the best? And I'm a huge MMA fan. I love the UFC, but if you like stand-up fighting and you're not a wrestling or jiu-jitsu aficionado, then Muay Thai is really tailor-made for you. And the other distinction between the other kickboxing promotions out there is that, Muay Thai allows elbows and, glory in the K1 and most of these stand-up kickboxing organizations don't allow that. And we go with traditional Muay Thai, science of the 8 limbs, the punches, the knees, the elbows, and the kicks. And you cannot ask for a more dramatic and exciting stand-up fighting style, in my opinion.
What was the brainchild behind Lion Fights? Because you're entering a space in combat sports that I'm sure you can admit in America isn't that popular. So when you created this company and you created this promotion, what is it? What is your firm belief that this will succeed and kind of grow?
Well, I think you take a look at the success of UFC in a terrible economy, going from a company that was, I believe, $30 million in the red to a $2 billion company. The majority of that was through a time that's probably the hardest economic time since the Depression. So what does that tell you? It tells you that, American audiences love fights. I think boxing has kind of slipped a bit, a couple notches, and I think MMA has really filled that void. And I think by specializing on one thing, which is what we're doing with Muay Thai, and we just felt there was an audience. Everybody that comes to our shows, people like yourself, they're blown away by it because they just don't expect it. They don't realize that Muay Thai is extremely popular in Europe. It's very popular in Asia, and it has never been properly promoted, in my opinion, in the United States. And we really felt there was a void there, and we tried to fill that as best we can.
Now, let me ask you this: is there something that you can take from the UFC? Because, like I said, the fans here and the general combat fans and mixed martial arts fans, I think mixed martial arts fans in general would be attracted to watching Muay Thai fights if they get to see the type of action that's being presented to them in a lot of these fights. But is there something that you can take away from, like, say, the event itself and the spectacle? Because the UFC does their mixed martial arts events different. Than it's almost like a rock concert meets combat sports. Is there something that you can take from that boxing is missing, that you can kind of merge the two together and kind of give people that same sort of feeling?
I think we lost him.
We lose him here?
Must have lost him, man. Let's try to get him back on.
We'll try to get him back on the line. But yeah,
that was a good question.
While you're getting him back on the line, what I was getting at was there could be some parallels there for a promotion like this to kind of take things from a company like the UFC that's tried and tested. It's kind of fallen on its face and made some mistakes, but gotten back up, and it kind of has this formula that it kind of understands what the fans want to see at their events, and was wondering if you could kind of get these kind of parallels between the two.
Yeah, well, we have him back on the line, George. That didn't take long to get Mr. Kent back on. So, Mr. Kent, go ahead, George, with your question that he probably missed the question. And
yeah, so what I was explaining was,
I got it.
Oh, you did? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. Watching a 12-round fight now is difficult. All of our fights, our pro fights, are 5 3-minute rounds, and with the nature of the fighting style itself, it's very aggressive. So everybody's got to put their best foot forward in 5 rounds. They've got 5 rounds to do that. I think that's part of it. I think you have to create an atmospheric area in the event itself that's conducive to having their fans feel the odds and Clyde's kicks. I want them to hear them. I want them to get close and intimate, and I think a venue like the Joint that we're doing is makes tremendous sense to do that. You know, everybody's close. They can feel these elbows on somebody's forehead, and I think in addition to the fights itself, we don't have lag time. When our fight's done, as soon as that fighter steps out of the ring, we go right into the next fight. So you really don't have time to catch your breath. Obviously, there's things you can do with the music. There's things you can do with the lighting and the production itself that we have that we tried to look at the UFC and look at other promotions and try and put the best product together that we can.
What about in terms of I think it's safe to say a lot of what makes the biggest fights in combat sports is some sort of fighter. The fighter personality has to shine through and connect with the fans, and you also it'll create some sort of emotional investment in the fighters that are competing against each other. Is there something that you can do to kind of convey that for the guys on your roster, so that they can kind of show who they are, not just what they do in the ring, but to kind of draw them a little bit closer to the fans, to give that so that they get that kind of relationship and kind of bring that emotional investment into a fight?
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. And we brought Jen Wenck in from the UFC. She'd worked with them for 6 years, so she's got all of these media inroads that probably traditional promotions outside of the UFC wouldn't have. So establishing that relationship with the fighter and their fan base via social media, getting the stories of these fighters out. And as wonderful a sport as this is, if I bring 10 fighters from Thailand over and no one knows who they are, even though they're amazing fighters, I think Americans want to see some Americans fight. And your guest earlier referred to it. You know, I'm bringing in Janssen Clive Fairtex, who's considered the greatest Muay Thai fighter of his generation, and we're giving an opportunity of the best American in that weight class to fight for the Lion Fight World title. Something that hasn't really been done in the past. We've got females on the card, so we're looking at all of our fan base. I want everybody to identify, to know who Tiffany Van Soest is. Most of the people in the fight business have heard of Kevin Ross. We've been able to give him a consistent platform. He's fighting Matt Embry, and this is a fight that fight fans have wanted for the last couple of years, and Christine Toledo was able to put that together. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing, is creating a balance with our fan base by exposing our fans, bringing in the best international fighters, and yet trying to grow our own American stars also.
You know, this is you brought it up, and I'll ask you now since you brought it up. This is very interesting to me because the main event of one of your upcoming cards. You know, you just brought it up. You know, you have Fairtex. He's fighting I don't want to say my old Muay Thai, but my Muay Thai coach. I used to train him and helped him in Jiu-Jitsu, Chike. What do you think about that fight? You know, a lot of people are talking about how difficult of a fight it's going to be for Chike, and you know, when you look at the two fighters, you know, how do you break down this fight and handicap it?
Well, I think there's a couple schools of thought. I think the way we looked at this was to get the
Did we lose him again?
I think so. Yeah, I think we lost him again.
We lost you again, huh?
So we're getting him back on the line right now.
No worries there. We got him back on the line, Mr. Matthews.
Okay. Sorry about the technical issues we're having here for whatever reason.
Yeah, in response to your question, as far as how I would handicap it, I think, what's happened is the Americans have never been allowed into that elite class of Muay Thai fighters. There's always been kind of an exclusivity. We want to give our Americans a shot, whether it's a Rocky story. I think Chike Lindsay is a very good. He's probably the best American middleweight that there is. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. He just beat Samlok, who was a Thai gold medalist. And Kunpan, when we talked to him about putting this fight together, he couldn't wait. He thinks it's a great matchup. And that's the beautiful thing about this sport, is you never know what's going to happen. And we are committed to giving our American fighters those opportunities that they felt they've never had in the past.
One thing you said that really kind of struck home with me, because I've been an MMA fan before I was a kickboxing fan or a Muay Thai fan, and I think we lost him again.
Did we?
Yeah.
Man, is he on a cell phone, or can he get a landline?
He said he's in a real bad area. He's at the gym, and he's in a real bad area.
Yeah.
So
that's it, and it's going to happen. So I apologize, everybody, about that, but we're trying. Again, if he's in a bad area, we can't really help it. But yeah, they're very exciting fights. I just don't think the fans have given it a chance, and I think by it being on cable, it's definitely a good thing. Even if it's one of those things where if you even if you're not looking for it, when you flip by and you see it on the program menu and you turn it on, you're going to start watching. You're not going to turn it off, because the fights are very exciting. When you watch these Muay Thai fights, there's the action is like, it's pretty crazy sometimes. Like when you watch Alistair Overeem and he's sitting there striking and throwing all these crazy hard strikes, people get very excited for it. It's the same way when you when you watch guys like Chike or Fairtex fight. You see these like explosive guys, and it's really entertaining for a lot of the fans. As soon as you watch it, you just kind of get drawn into it.
That's so true. Now, we definitely have him on the line again. I'm pretty positive we won't lose him this time. Third time's the charm, Mr. Kent. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, what I was saying was something that really holds true to me. When I haven't been a Muay Thai fan for very long, or a kickboxing fan in general, but my first event I went to, what you were describing was when you can actually hear the kicks land and the elbows land, and you kind of hear that impact. When you were describing that, it kind of gave me chills, because I remember that being one of the most exciting parts of a show like what you have. And I think that you're really onto something there. How do you get this whole philosophy and this whole new combat sport into the hearts and into the eyes of the American audience, so they can see what I have seen?
Right, getting them to see the event, and it's great. It's on Access TV. We've got viewing parties. We've got about a half a dozen in different parts of the United States for this one. But I like to get people that are coming that have never seen it before, and people that are influential people. I'll bring them and I'll put them down in the front row and get them to see this. And I'm almost amazed, because I've had the president of the Mirage, who came to the event, a good friend of mine, who's my biggest fan. He can't wait for the next event. Never been a huge fight fan, but he's just so impressed with the athleticism of these fighters, the event itself, and the tremendous power. I mean, to hear Yodsanfly kick somebody in the side when he fought Gregory Choplin last time he was here, and Choplin's a European champion, and he just chopped him down. It's so impressive to see and to actually feel that, to be that close to it.
Are you ever planning on venturing out of Las Vegas?
Yeah, we will in 2014. We've been approached by a number of folks, but our business plan has always been to, stay here in the fight capital of the world, to brand ourselves as best we can. Now that we've got a good television partner, they're very open to the idea. We've looked at a number of jurisdictions that we will be in 2014.
That's very exciting because, in my opinion, it's important because you can watch a fight on television, but you guys have with Jen behind you guys, who's one of the best PR reps, if not the very best PR lady in the business, right? I mean, you guys have the exposure on shows like ours on the websites that the same websites that the UFC get their fan base from, and the same type of media attention to travel and kind of bring your events to other metropolises. I would think make a huge impact in spreading your promotion.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. There is no mainstream Muay Thai media. There is this catalyst. There is this UFC, which has created, an amazing sport, an amazing awareness of the sport. And I'm not sure that 10, 15 years ago Muay Thai would have been accepted just because of its brutality, just because even though it's a beautiful sport, it can be brutal. I think what the UFC has done is not only allowed sports like ourselves to have more media exposure, I think it allows us to appeal to a fan base that is almost, I don't want to say desensitized, but I think having seen what goes on in mixed martial arts when it wasn't, 10, 12 years ago when John McCain called it, human cockfighting, to where it's at now. And looking at sports like ours, I think it would have been a tough sell to mainstream American fight fans pre-UFC. And I think we have a debt of gratitude, really, to what they've been able to do by embrace a whole new fan base, a whole new generation of fight fans that weren't into boxing, and made it's almost a culture. I mean, you go to these fights, and you've been to these big UFC fights, you're right, it's like a rock concert. Everybody's got their T-shirts with their affiliation, their fighters, and they've created such an amazing brand. And I think it's really helped folks like ourselves who are looking at that as a not only a business model, but as a potential area of fans and sponsors that we can tap into.
I completely agree with you, and honestly, and I say this with 100% sincerity, my first Muay Thai event, I had never really watched kickboxing or a Muay Thai event even on television. I went to one live, and I was completely sold from the very beginning. I mean, from the very first fight, you're like, holy shit, Even my fiance. I mean, even my fiance was like, "This is better than the UFC, babe. What's going on here? This is great, So you guys definitely have something. Let me ask you this in closing, before we let you go. The UFC kind of built themselves on a reality show, and by doing so with the Ultimate Fighter, they kind of brought themselves into the mainstream of America. We won't say mainstream, but they definitely built themselves off a reality show. Do you think that same model could work for you and your promotion? Have there ever been any talks with maybe Access TV about doing some kind of reality show with Lion Fights?
Yeah, there actually has been discussions, and it's something that we're looking at. I think we don't want to just do what the UFC does. I think we want to take a look at what we could do that would be kind of unique to our sport, and maybe develop something with Access. I think that makes sense for everybody. They've got an entertainment brand, a music brand, to be able to bring something unique and to not only use their great fight formula that they have for Friday night, but maybe reach beyond the traditional fight fan and like you referred to earlier, get an identification with the fans to these particular guys. Let them know what they're like. Let them know what they're like outside of the ring. What they do on their other jobs. And I think that's huge for people to really embrace these guys and girls.
Okay, well, there we have it. Well, everybody listening at home, this is the man behind Lion Fights, Scott Kent. Tune in on Access TV. What is it, July 26th, right? That's coming up next week on Access TV for your 10th event.
Yep, next Friday night on Access TV. It'll be live from the joint in Vegas if you're here. And we're at lionfight.com. If you have any questions or thoughts, fights you want to see, please let us know.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Kent. It's been a pleasure to talk to you this evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Man, I have actually a lot of interest in that fight. Obviously, I've been watching him train for it. I've been watching this. I've seen. Actually, I haven't been able to watch him train for it, but I know the dudes that have been going in and out of their training with him for it. because they come and a lot of them are like like he was saying, there's definitely crossover there. Mixed martial artists train in Muay Thai.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Okay, you watch the UFC events on television, or if you're in the arena. Okay, what happens at these fights is, unless these guys are standing and banging, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna get booed by the crowd. Okay, the people at home are gonna say, this is boring. This is a boring fight. When's the next fight? Unless you're a real purist and you can really appreciate all facets of the game. The common MMA fan gets bored unless these guys are duking it out. They're bloodthirsty. With Muay Thai, there is none of that. And honestly, bro, and to anybody listening, I wasn't just blowing smoke up his ass. It's a really true fact. My first kickboxing event, which didn't take place that long ago, I would say within the last year. Okay, I was sitting ringside because they don't fight in a cage. I was sitting ringside, obviously, with my fiance here, at Amber Paxton, right? Or is it at the Amber Paxton? I think it's at the Amber Paxton. If you want to check her out, she's pretty awesome. But I was sitting next to her, and we were just completely dumbfounded about how exciting Muay Thai is. It's really incredible, and he's right. To hear the shin hit the head, and as brutal as that may sound, it's 100% fact. It completely is an awing experience to see something live like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely pretty brutal, and for people who like stand-up fights, as I was saying, man, I was trying to give a good example. Like, people love watching Alistair Overeem just throw down. They're like, oh, I love watching these. I love it when I what was the fight we were going to see? We were always talking about. We thought that Khabib and Abel Trujillo that they were just gonna walk to the center of the cage and throw down until when you see like guys who are just gonna throw down and throw these hard shots at each other, and then people boo when it hits the ground. I mean, what do you think you're watching when you watch these Muay Thai fights? You're watching 15 minutes of that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy that portion of mixed martial arts, then you will 100%. If you're one of the people that boos when it hits the ground, then you will love Muay Thai. You will love watching lion fights. Period. It's that simple, because it's all action. Like I've watched tons of boring boxing. I've sat there and watched boring boxing matches with you, where literally feel like you're about to pass out. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't want you don't even mention the name. Actually, forget it. There's been plenty of Mayweather fights where I was about to pass out. I was just like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
So fucking boring. I'm about to just, I'd rather just go to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Muay Thai's not like that, though.
Muay Thai's not like that,
No.
dude. It's not like that. It's like, it's a lot of action condensed in. You got a 3-minute round, you got 5 of them. These dudes are going to throw down for that 15 minutes, and they throw hard. I mean, these are hard strikes they're throwing.
Yep.
Knees, elbows, fists, feet, shins, everyone, you're getting hit with a lot of stuff, man. And it's brutal. Like, I haven't been to like, I mean, I've watched Chike fight plenty of times, because I trained with him a million times. So I've watched him fight, a bunch of times. And it is brutal. Like, when he's fighting in the main event, believe me, I can tell you right now, it hurts to grapple with him, okay? It hurts to grapple with him. And he hasn't hit you yet. He kicks hard. These guys hit hard, man. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And if you like a lot of destruction, you will enjoy these. You will enjoy this card.
Agreed. 100%. Anybody who tunes in next Friday and watches Lion Fights on Access TV and doesn't like it, please email me at pedro@bjpen.com. Tell me why you didn't like it, and I will forward that to Mr. Kent himself. Okay? The guy that we just had on the air, he's the president and CEO of the promotion. So if you absolutely were bored, you think MMA's better, write me and tell me, and we can send it to Mr. Kent, because I honestly think anybody that tunes in is really going to fall in love with a new sport, if you haven't already seen it.
Listen, I like mixed martial arts. I like I like combat sports in general. Like, I don't dislike boxing when the guys are when people want to fight. I dislike point fighting. It's the same reason I don't like competitive taekwondo and competitive karate matches, point fighting karate. It's the same reason I don't like point fighting. I like people who are going to fight. There is a difference there. There's point fighting in MMA also. It's not like it's just exclusive to boxing or anything else.
Yeah, John Fitz, GSP.
Yeah.
There's a few guys out there that have a bad reputation for being blankets.
Yeah, they're absolutely, and that's the equivalent. Okay, the way people get pissed off at boxing when they're like, "Oh, well, he's not doing anything. It's just running around." They're just running around the ring hugging. That's the same thing that happens when you watch point fighting in MMA. And the thing is, like, you really don't see that in Muay Thai. It's just people are going for the kill.
Yeah,
like the entire time. It's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, you'll enjoy it.
That's it. You're right. I was, when Jen, who he mentioned, who we talked about on the show, when she propositioned me to interview this guy, at first she just said, you want to interview Scott Kent, and I was like, yeah, for you, we'll hook you up. Yeah, we'll give you some airtime for your Lion Fights deal. But I had no idea who he was. Turns out he's the president and CEO of the company, and a really good perspective on kickboxing from a guy like that. He even said, George, that they might do a reality show, which would be cool. They have an uphill battle to try to get into the hearts of America. I mean, let's be real. This isn't going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? But if somebody like him can really ride the wave and stay diligent in promoting his brand, the sport does have a big future in America, guaranteed. Like he said, and like I believe, all it takes is one time for you to see the sport, and you actually will be hooked. I mean, because it's very exciting. If you like MMA, I mean, if you like combat sports and you like seeing guys get hit and guys hitting and getting knocked out, it doesn't really get any better than Muay Thai, bro. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And I think they're on the right track. You can't be successful. You can't be successful with running shows, and especially like shows that are any type of pay-per-view. You cannot run without television. Period. I do not care who you are. This is proven. Proven. You have no TV, you don't have shit. Period. Okay? So they're on the right track with getting themselves out there. They put themselves on TV. They've got some distribution there. That's the first step. A reality show. That the next step is trying to get some emotional investment in the fight. I know how good Fairtex and Chike are. I know how good they are. Okay, like the Muay Thai fans and the kickboxing fans, they know how good these two fighters are. What you don't know is you don't know anything beyond the fact that they're good fighters, though. That's it. They're good fighters. I almost liken it to like a guy like there's plenty of guys in the UFC who are good fighters. People know them as like good fighters, but their personality just doesn't convey at all. Gunnar Nelson is a good fighter, but he has no personality. And you have to be able to connect with people to make that money. And I think that if they can get something like that, where they can get some sort of emotional investment in their fighters and in the fights that they're putting on, that they're going to be in a lot better shape.
They will. I believe in the sport, honestly. I'm excited when I watch it, so that's all I can do is give my opinion, and that's my opinion. I keep it real. That's what I think. Anybody who watches the kickboxing or Muay Thai fight, they're gonna like it because it's fucking exciting. Hey, let me ask you this. Let's get off this kickboxing topic. We try to bring good guests every single week. With this guy, Scott Kent or Kent Scott. It was a favor for Miss Wank. She asked us if we could get him on the air, and of course, it's our pleasure to help out our friends who help us out. So we got him on. And again, with Spike TV hitting me up and trying to get Mr. Riggs on the line, we got him, and that interview turned out excellent. But day in and day out, you and I, we work on trying to get big guests for our listeners Cesar turned out great. He's one of our regulars, although we haven't had him on for a few months because he's been on radio silence, But we're the first people to get his interview. Next week we have a lot of good names lined up, which we won't announce now. But I mean, we talked to everybody from a Shogun Huas to the Michael Bispings to like the Dustin Poiriers. You know what I mean? But we purely try to stick to a UFC base. Like I said, sometimes like the King Mo's who are on Bellator, or Rampage Jackson who's now on Bellator, but just the bigger stars, and the more credible athletes that our listeners may want to hear. George, do you want to tell them, or do you want me to tell them about what happened when I hit up Tito Ortiz?
I'll let you give the story, but I'll just say this: times must be hard in the Ortiz household, huh?
And Adam, I want you to go ahead and tweet this out, brother. Go ahead and tweet him out and tag him and everything at Tito Ortiz or whatever his Twitter handle may be. But yeah, anybody who's listening right now, we wanted to get Tito on because, for one, he just recently talked about him wanting to come back to MMA action. He tweeted out photos of him at Bellator headquarters. He's saying he's talking to UFC, Bellator. He's tagging all these people in his tweets saying he may want to come out of retirement, that he's fully healthy. And two, he just had Cyborg fight at Invicta last weekend where she won the Invicta featherweight title. So I thought it was relevant and a very appropriate time to get Mr. Ortiz on our show. Now, I've interviewed Tito in the past. He was sitting next to BJ at UFC 162, when Anderson Silva fought. I mean, so I didn't really think it out of the realm of possibilities to get him on our radio show to talk about all these things that have been going on in his career and in his life. When I approached him, he said he would do the interview for us, okay? But what he asked for was for a solid 60 days homepage, a banner on bjpenn.com. Now, we have bills to pay, and I'm not gonna say dollar amounts of what that is actually worth to us on bjpenn.com. But if you're internet savvy, if you know what AdSpace goes for, we do about 5 million hits a month. Okay, so you take the 5 million hits a month, and he does it for 2 months. That's 10 million hits of a punishment banner for him for doing an interview on our radio show. And I thought that was very pompous, arrogant, and rude, and completely inappropriate of Ortiz to try to bargain his way into an interview with us for that.
Do you want to tell them what my counteroffer was?
Sure. No, I don't know what it is. You tell them.
Oh, well, I responded to this with, I said that we would counter his offer and just sign a hat and send it back to him. But I don't know if he's going to accept that or not. But that was what I thought. I thought we could negotiate right back. Just sign a shirt or a hat. That's 60 days of ad space. That's my counteroffer.
I mean, like, seriously, who are you to ask for a barter for an interview? Like, we're trying to help you out. You're saying you want to get back in the UFC. Your athlete just won a fight. So, I mean, that kind of turned me off. I don't really know if we'll be in the Tito Ortiz business anymore, or if we ever were, but we're probably definitely not going to be in it now. I can say that because I'm the director of the website, so whatever.
Yeah, I know. It's fine, like, just, it's always about, like, listen, if you're a fighter, you want to promote your brand. You want to promote yourself, what you're doing, that's up to you. Okay, we're giving you the platform. Anybody who knows anything knows how much. We've got a lot of viewers. We've got a lot of followers. We've got a huge fan base and following here. And just giving you the opportunity to. We don't interview people and ambush them and stuff like that. So I was a little bit surprised in that respect. I think that we've always. Talk to people and just kind of talk to them like from who we are and kind of just, we're very laid back and, we don't, I don't intentionally try to push anybody's buttons with things. And I didn't understand the response that we got, but it's fine. Like I said, it's no problem. Times must be hard in the Ortiz household.
I mean, it's kind of like, Tito thinks he's a very smart and savvy businessman, right? I mean, that's what he thinks. I mean, based off his public persona, at least. And I just don't think that will... I mean, well, obviously, dude, I just blasted him, right? Like, I just blasted him on our radio show, so who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're not going to have you on our show because I'm not giving away that real estate for you for an interview for 20 minutes. I mean, It's all good. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I wanted to blast him on that because you know what? That's kind of fucked up, and I'm just gonna say it. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I agree. And that's about all the airplay I'm going to give Tito. At any rate, yeah, good show, man. I'm extremely happy. I'm even more pumped to watch some Fight Master and get Joe Riggs on again next week. Everybody come back for that one.
Dude, yep. And Cesar Gracie, Nick Diaz got an offer.
It was a good home run show to come back to, man.
Yeah, we've been gone for 2 weeks. We hit a home run, and I didn't even know it was going to be a home run show. I figured, we had the couple requests to get Riggs and the Lion Fights president on, and I was like, okay, yeah, we probably should get back on the saddle and get this show going, and we got 2 guests already booked. Let's see if Cesar wants to get on, and boom, we made it a show. So next week we're gonna have an equal or better cast, probably. George, we're talking to a lot of guys for next week's show in the coming weeks. We're working out scheduling. I even have a Portuguese guy, somebody who speaks Portuguese, Felipe, who's on our writing staff down in Brazil, said that he will gladly get on the show and be our El Suarez, so we can get Eric Silva and Shogun and the other Portuguese speaking fighters on our show, and he will translate our questions and their answers, which might prove a little bit difficult, but we do have that resource. And so since him and I have discussed this, I have talked to Eric Silva, I have talked to Shogun, and they're both down to come on the show. So we'll work the Brazilian angle, and we'll get these guys who don't necessarily speak the best English, but we provide a translator, and we'll get them on the show. So hopefully look out for that next week. I'll try to get at least one Brazilian guy on the show next week on Wednesday, and hopefully Shogun, right? Maybe we try to stack the show. Maybe we go Bisping, Shogun, and a Tito Ortiz banner. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely we have some good stuff planned, man, and it's going to be good. We have some good stuff going on. We're not going to announce the who we've got coming up, but for sure lineup. But he name dropped some people, and we've got some good stuff in the works here, buddy.
Yes, sir. All right, we're done, right? Are we done?
Let's do it, man.
All right, George. Thanks for your time tonight, brother. Everybody listening, thank you very much. And we'll be back next Wednesday for sure. We had 2 weeks off, but we're definitely going to be back next Wednesday. Same time, same place, bjpenn.com. Thank you very much.
Later, peoples.
All right, baby. Time to roll. Time to roll to the hole. We rolling. Yeah. This is what we do and why we do it. And nobody does it any better than we do. It's your night, your fight, so get it right, baby.